Not everyone agrees, though. This seems to be an outrage to some, but not to others. David Tafuri is a former State Department official. He was a foreign policy advisor during the 2008 presidential campaign to candidate Barack Obama. David, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I think let's just begin at the Susan Rice story. Very telling that she would go on television just recently and lie right to camera and say, I knew nothing about that. Why would she lie about that?
I don't know why she would lie about that, and we don't know that she lied. And perhaps some of what she was asked to talk about was classified. We know she can't talk about that. But I think it's helpful to your audience to break down in phases what happened here and look at the legality of each thing. So there was surveillance of Russian agents, including the Russian ambassador. That's okay. In fact, that's what the U.S. is supposed to do. Surveil Russia. They surveil us. They try to get information about us. We try to get information about them. Now, secondly, there were certain U.S. citizens caught up in that surveillance. There was incidental collection of their conversations or discussions about them. That includes some Trump campaign officials. That's okay, too. That's going to happen. Now, they're supposed to remain masked. In this case, they were unmasked, and we know from the story today that Susan Rice requested the unmasking of some of them. Now, you have to look at what are the criteria for unmasking. And there are two basic criteria. One, do you need to know the name of the U.S. citizen in order to understand the intelligence? Or two, does the intelligence suggest that the U.S. citizen may be involved in some criminal activity? Now, we know now from Director Comey of the FBI that there's an ongoing criminal investigation of the Trump campaign and the cooperation, potential cooperation between Trump officials and Russia. So therefore, there could be a very good reason for this unmasking. We need to find out.
There might be. Is there a good reason for the spying that had nothing to do with the Russia investigation, which we now know encompassed an awful lot of surveillance of apparently Trump himself and his associates? What could possibly be the justification for that during a presidential campaign?
Well, we don't know that. That has not come out. No one has suggested
well, actually, Fox News is reporting that a lot of this material had nothing at all to do with that Russia investigation. So again, in the middle of a presidential campaign, when you have one party which is seeking to defeat another party, for the party in power to use its intel gathering capacity against the other party seems way out of bounds, legal or not, doesn't it?
Tucker, we have to look at each surveillance and the communication that happened in that surveillance. Now, surveillance doesn't just happen with Russia. It happens with agents of other countries as well. There are lots of countries around the world. Lots of countries have agents here. So all sorts of conversations could have been surveilled. And Trump campaign officials could have been caught up in that, too. So we have to look at each incident of unmasking.
No, but
and you have to apply the two criteria that I mentioned to you.
But it's not simply about the unmasking. It's the fact of the spying. It's the fact that during a presidential campaign, the Obama administration was spying on the people around Donald Trump. And again, we're reporting today it was not all about Russia. So that's obviously a mystery we haven't solved. But I'm just saying, not the legal questions. Everything is legal in Washington, as you know. Everything is legal. NSA collects everything, and it's legal. Fine. Is it ethical? Is it moral? Would you want it to happen to you?
I do not agree with the premise that the Obama administration was spying on the Trump campaign. This was incidental collection that was part of the normal surveillance that goes on. This surveillance actually started under the Bush administration. President Bush,
the incidental collection. So basically what you're saying, so under the Trump administration, let's say we find out virtually every leader in Congress speaks to officials from foreign governments all the time. Let's just pick Chuck Schumer. We could pick any of them.
Sure.
And we're going to spy on the government officials with whom we know Chuck Schumer speaks. And, oh, my gosh, we just collected confidential information on Chuck Schumer. And then we're going to pass that up to chain and to various intelligence agencies, State Department, and then we're going to leak it to the press. Is that okay?
But you're putting this backwards. We are surveilling foreign agents of foreign countries, especially foreign countries that happen to be enemies of the U.S. or pose a threat to the U.S. If someone like Chuck Schumer happens to talk to those people, that information is going to be collected. Now, unless Chuck Schumer is engaging in improper activities or we suspect Chuck Schumer to be involved in criminal activity, his name should remain masked. Unless we have to know his name to understand the intelligence.
But why
now,
would
my guess is there were lots of conversations that were surveilled that involved Trump campaign officials that were not unmasked, but certain ones were unmasked.
I've heard this explanation from the very beginning. This is just what we do. It's totally cool. But wouldn't someone inside the Obama White House with deep political experience and knowledge, or maybe Susan Rice, who's one of the president's closest political advisors and friends, say, wait a second, this guy's running a campaign as a Republican for president, maybe we should pull back. Now, it's being reported tonight by Sarah Carta at Circa that according to NSC records, her interest in the surveillance began in July when he got the nomination and accelerated throughout the election cycle till November. That looks political to me. Doesn't it to you?
I mean, you're insinuating that's why Susan Rice
Not
did this.
Insinuating. I'm asking why in the world could she possibly be unmasking the names of people in a campaign against her preferred candidate?
Well, Tucker, put this in context. We know that Russia was engaging in hacking in the U.S. in order to interfere with the election. We have said all 17 of our intelligence agencies have said that Russia was engaging in hacking. And that hacking started before July.
Stop. You brought this up, and you act as if we all know this. And I don't think we all do know this, actually. Because for all the evidence that's been thrown out there and all the leaking, the underlying evidence of the alleged crimes that justify all of this spying, they're being close-held by the Obama people. You saw today an Obama official intelligence saying, I can't discuss the underlying evidence. Why is that when they can discuss everything else? What is this underlying evidence we all assume exists? What is this based on?
Well, no official with classified information can discuss that classified information. So
you tell that to Mike Flynn.
Well, if you want to talk about Mike Flynn, I mean, Mike Flynn lied to Vice President Pence about the nature of his conversation
to Pence is now a crime, and you get to reveal confidential information if you lie to Mike Pence?
No, that was improper. And I'm glad you brought this up, because there's a fourth phase to this, which is some of this information, including the fact that people were unmasked, was leaked. The fact that that was leaked, that is improper. And I agree with you that those who leaked information, probably broke the law, and they should be investigated too.
What's this about? No, what's this about?
I'll tell you what it's about.
We all assume that we know Russia hacked the election, and I'm just asking you, why has not one person, not one, I do this every single night, characterized what exactly that means? I'm getting very frustrated. I don't know what it means to hack an election. I don't know exactly what they did that would constitute a crime so severe that you'd have to spy on the Trump campaign to prove it. What is that evidence?
They hacked into the DNC's emails, and they leaked those emails out in a strategic way to impact the election.
Why won't all of our
intelligence agencies?
How do you know that?
Because every single one of our intelligence agencies have said that. Director Comey has said that. Clapper has said that.
They said that.
No, actually, and if you don't trust them,
maybe you can
that's a different story.
Maybe you can answer this question. I asked the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff of Burbank, California, can you look me straight in the face and say that you have evidence that the Russian government hacked John Podesta or the DNC email accounts? And he declined to do that. So I just want to know, unless you and I have to go on faith, we have to trust politicians in a political system on faith, why don't we get some evidence that any of this actually happened? Why do we all have to sort of nod and say, oh, yeah, it must have happened because, like, the Washington Post says it happened? Where's the evidence?
I don't know why Adam Schiff would tell you that. Maybe because the information he knows is classified. But all of our intelligence agencies have reported that Russia did hack into the DNC emails. And if you talk to DNC officials, they'll also tell you they knew within a few days after their email system had been hacked that it was Russia. They hired experts.
It was the Russian government.
Knew it was... It was the Russian government and agents of the Russian government. And if you don't care about that, then
but I do. I care enough to ask real questions.
Then you're not worried about the sanctity of our democracy, which Russia...
I care enough to ask real questions because I have learned in 30 years here, don't take it on faith, get the facts. And I'm waiting for a single fact, just one, from any of these fabled 17 intelligence agencies. How about Coast Guard intelligence? They're one of the agencies you're referring to. Maybe they could come on the show and give me this one scintilla of evidence that the Russian government, not some Russian, but the Russian government of Vladimir Putin broke into John Podesta's emails. Well, that's for the express purpose of getting Donald Trump elected president.
Then I'm sure you would agree with me that we need a special commission to investigate this. A neutral, fair commission. And
it's just a talking point.
Why wouldn't you agree with that?
How about people?
Don't you believe this is important? I know you don't think it happened, but don't you think it's important for us?
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Okay.
I'm merely saying if we're going to destroy the lives of people and surveil American citizens, we're going to break the basic bond of trust between government and citizen. They're watching me without my knowledge, look at my email, listening to my phone calls. Whoa, because we need to get to the bottom of this Russia thing. I'm just asking for one person to give me one piece of evidence that this Russia thing actually happened, and nobody will. And that's very very telling, don't you think?
Well, the evidence is coming out slowly.
Well, where is it?
But
We've got 2 intel committees who are supposed to be in charge of this stuff, and they haven't provided anything for the public to assess.
Senator
Why?
Mark Warner is the ranking member
I'm aware.
on Senate Intelligence. He said last week that he's reviewed a lot of information. It gives him a great concern. He thinks this is the most important thing he has ever worked on.
I'm sure he believes that.
Now,
but again, for the third time, there are no Republican. I'm not flacking for the Republicans. They haven't either, and I just want that fact. And I'm just surprised
let me
as a
tell you what a
citizen,
Republican says.
Be a little more skeptical and ask for some facts to back up.
Can I tell you what a
allegations.
Republican says? Senator McCain, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, a Republican, says we need a special commission to investigate this in a fair,
I'm glad that Senator McCain feels that way. But I'm saying, as a co-equal citizen of this country,
why not take his recommendations for that? You're a great journalist.
So
you're asking the right questions.
Because I'm a journalist,
and you're skeptical, but you would recognize that journalists need to investigate this, right? It's important enough that we should investigate it and get the answers that you don't think we have yet.
So if John McCain says it, then we all have to sort of nod in bovine assent and be like, oh my God. Well, I think it is. And I am a journalist, and all I'm asking for is one piece of evidence that the core crime occurred, the crime being used to justify spying on American citizens. And I think as a liberal, you would say, hey man, I'm concerned about spying on American citizens.
Nobody, even most Republicans, denies that a crime occurred.
Most Republicans thought they were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Russia hacked into DNC's emails. That is a crime. Hacking is a crime. We also know they were engaging in other activities to try and interfere with our election. And what's important is we protect the sanctity of our democracy.
I couldn't agree more. And what I'm saying as a journalist and an American is give me some evidence or stop talking. That's my view.